Story 1. My job is being an engineer, and the goal of our department is summarized as figuring out technology to make fun products 10 years in the future. They call it the moonshot. Just last month, we were given a demo of a headband that used electrical shocks, known as vestibular stimulation, to trick me into thinking that I am actually rolling with a virtual reality flight simulator airplane. It actually works. My own hobbies involve wildlife photography and astrophotography. I build my own telescopes and gear and have one patent on bird photography. I also do combat robotics, build small battle bots, and fight them a couple of times a year. I design my own electronics, write my own firmware, contribute to radio-controlled related open-source projects, and write and film tutorials for other robot builders. Story 2. I try to leave creative, thoughtful pranks for my kids and my partner. It makes life more fun. There is a real estate agent in my town on all the billboards, and she's creepy. I cut out her face from newspapers and hide it around the house and in the lunches periodically. Also, I'm not sure if it counts, but I love writing postcards to people I love. I get them from thrift stores for super cheap, have a glass of wine, and try to remember an amazing memory of someone. I write as eloquently as I can, using imagery to bring them back to that moment. And then I mail it off for no reason. Stuff like that. I also love to paint my nails. I would paint them every day if I could. I know acetone is horrible for you, but I choose to live at risk. Story 3. In all honesty, lately it's designing stuff on Animal Crossing. I've been wanting to learn to drum and learning how to figure out what songs are going to do when they're songs I've never heard before, to try to get a head start when I get my drum kit. I also like to build online communities weirdly, but I don't know if this counts as creative. Story 4. I wrote a series of articles on creativity. One of my points, and one thing I learned way back in college, is to provide time and space to be creative. Have a set spot and a set time. In my case, this was often going to a coffee shop with my laptop at a specific time and writing for a certain amount of hours. Sometimes I didn't even have a subject until I got there. Story 5. Cracking words and laughing at the ridiculous explanations that are the current status quo. The latest one is dungeon. Online, there was some nonsense about it being an old translation for another possible nonsense word. Nope. Break the word apart. Dung plus on. A place of immeasurable amounts of waste. Historically, it makes sense. How often did you ever hear about dungeons having plumbing? I imagine having even a bucket to put fresh bathroom waste in was a luxury reserved for people staying on good terms. Also, shame on you if you are one of those people who push these nonsense word explanations. I love cracking words, but I really do get irritated when I come across people just spouting another person's nonsense. I like working on my anger too. I have problems. Story 6. Tabletop role-playing games. Even if we do not have as much time to meet up as a group, I still spend time thinking and writing about new campaigns and characters. Story 7. I paint miniatures, mostly Warhammer 40,000. I love the fact that it pretty much takes my whole concentration, so I don't really have room to be stressed about anything when doing it. Story 8. Sometimes, just setting aside time to explore new ideas or skills helps. It is also helpful to stay curious and open to different experiences, as they can provide fresh perspectives and fuel creative thinking. This could mean drawing, writing, or even trying out new do-it-yourself projects. Story 9. I'm a data engineer, so my work is normally to get data from point A to point B, doing tasks along the way. I don't care how you do it, so that gives me a lot of freedom and opportunity to find cool and better ways to do my work each time. It's like a little puzzle to solve, as all requirements are different. Keeps me engaged. Story 10. Photography. I have a fancy camera, but modern smartphones are just about on par with it in image fidelity. While that's something of a bummer, it also allows me to get down and take some shots pretty much wherever and whenever the mood strikes. Story 11. I've been running role-playing campaigns for my friends for the past 30 years. Every Tuesday night, rain or shine, I have literally millions of words in homebrewed adventures, mostly for the various iterations of the Star Wars role-playing games. Story 12. Build spreadsheets to map out my life or make it easier for projects I work on. For instance, I help organize sports tournaments, and I create spreadsheets that build out a generic schedule using our constraints, such as the number of teams, courts, time per game, and playoff format, and develop a way to easily input scores, calculate standings, and output standings in a playoff bracket that people can view throughout the day. Sounds boring, but I love it. Story 13. Mostly writing for a blog I will never publish. Writing is a helpful way to get my thoughts in order. Photography and photo editing are on the back burner, but still kept warm. Story 14. Creative video games for me, like building things in, for example, Minecraft. The gameplay in The Sims 4 bores me, but I love building in that game. I recently built this castle, which I think turned out pretty neat. Story 15. My attention deficit hyperactivity disorder rattled brain has several creative outlets on standby that I cycle through practically each week. Lego, gardening, woodworking, and cooking are the big ones. Right now, it's cooking. Got a dough roller and have been making my own pasta noodles. Holy crap, the taste difference is enormous. Super easy, too. Story 16. Multiplayer video games. I can sign on at any time and be whoever I want to be. I can be the guy who thinks he's funny, the drunk, the idiot, the meme, the tryhard, or just play casually and listen to music. Story 17. If you're totally new to it, I recommend picking up a bulk purchase on one of the resale markets. Then set little challenges for yourself to make different items or concepts, which will force you to use the pieces in new ways. I think it's the best hobby out there, and although I've been building my whole life, really digging into it as an adult has been an extremely rewarding experience. I don't vilify it in the slightest, but if your aim is creativity, then I caution against collecting and displaying the sets. This, in my opinion, is how the hobby can get really expensive. Stick to large, bulk purchases and sort the collection by piece type. Lots of resources to explore and rabbit holes to fall down. Happy building. Story 18. Mostly paint. But I love walking and talking to myself. There's a part of my personality that needs to be walked and talked to. If I don't do that, then I feel off. My brain will think and say things I wouldn't expect to say or think if I let it do its thing while going for a stroll. Sometimes I'll just walk around in circles in the garage if I don't have the space or if it's too hot. Big fan of the walk and talk. Story 19. I find creativity in online spaces, but it feels like social media algorithms only reward what is popular, not what is truly creative. Is the internet killing real creativity? Story 20. I read a lot, but creatively, when I get the urge to make something, I create an edit in Photoshop and print out a coffee mug with custom designs from TV shows, anime, games, or whatever else I want. I'm not an artist. I do not draw things from scratch. I'm a Photoshop enthusiast at best. I take materials I can find on the internet and adjust them. Sometimes it's quick and doesn't require much time, about an hour. Sometimes the materials are missing parts and I have to edit, clean, or redraw a lot, so it can take 2 evenings. The only issue is that I'm running out of space. I have a cup hanger rack on the wall. Story 21. Free writing can be fun. It's simply just writing without correcting anything you put down. You're not trying to make something good, but just keep the flow going, even if it doesn't make sense. Having a prompt so you can practice something specific can be good too. You can even just take a picture and try to make a story for it. Story 22. By experimenting with new things, getting out of your comfort zone, embracing your mistakes, and reflecting on them, practicing mindfulness, in my case, meditation, unplugging yourself from digital stimuli, and interacting with nature, letting your mind wander. Those are some things that might be helpful. Story 23. Over the past couple of years, I've been putting together cool outfits on the weekends and posting them to a men's fashion subreddit. It almost acts like a form of journaling. I don't even mind all the teenagers calling me gay. Story 24. Full-time writer, so it's mostly that. Aside from the paid work, I do a weekly newsletter with a brand new free short story every Wednesday. Mostly horror and science fiction. That keeps me on my toes. Story 25. Yeah, heaps of ideas. In no particular order, play competitive story games. One I know is called Once Upon a Time. It's a real workout. Random generation. Random tables work, but pretty much any divining method works. Runes, oracle cards, pendulums. My favorite is a deck of psychological archetypes. I am currently experimenting with cards from a game called Dixit, which are highly symbolic and surreal paintings. Read and take in stuff from outside the genre you are playing in. I find learning about history and the natural world, in particular, a great place for inspiration. Make an effort to remember and record your dreams. I find going on long walks gives me time to think and percolate ideas. If you find you need to be entertaining younger children, you can practice by making up stories to keep them entertained. This will build your storytelling muscles. Story 26. I write. It is an outlet I have used since my childhood. I write free verse poetry mostly, but strangely I struggle when I am in a good mental health space. In those times I pick up one of the novels I have started and shelved, or sometimes I sketch or paint, though I am really not talented in that particular area. Story 27. I've been playing guitar and bass for close to 20 years now. I'm still awful and have no idea what I'm doing, but I like to just mess around. I also like to do things to the instruments. I've painted, stained, installed new pickups, changed pickguards, and whatever else to make them uniquely my own. Story 28. I talk with friends, and we make up stories and skits with each other. I also like working in Blender to create 3D environments and characters. I use Marvelous Designer for digital fashion. I also use Photoshop and Procreate for image manipulation and digital painting and design. I am a big fan of After Effects for visual effects and motion graphics. I also like using InDesign and Illustrator for graphic design and vector graphics. Finally, I like to cook. It's a good opportunity to try new stuff. Story 29. I am in a couple of different groups, and I often act as the dungeon master. I build worlds, create characters, invent plots, and design monsters. I don't know where I would be without it. It is the greatest game to have ever existed and always will be. Story 30. I narrate my life in my head. Also, every minor situation that's somewhat memorable goes into my mental folder of writing prompts and scenes to flesh out a story. I also doodle all the time. Random shapes, characters from my stories, objects around me. Story 31. Juggling. Once you get comfortable with a decent array of tricks, you can flow between them, creating new sub-tricks. It's a great way to access intuitive creativity on the fly and get into a flow state. Story 32. I run a Dungeons and Dragons game for my friends. It's a bit of improv, a lot of prep work, some creative writing, clever tactical wargaming, and even requires some rudimentary coding to get the custom stuff working on our online virtual tabletop. Story 33. I like going to outdoor coffee shops, some place where you can be seated and see lots of people passing. I usually take my notebook and start writing about the people who pass by, trying to imagine who they are and what they do. I try not to go to the most obvious take to make it more interesting and go for more far-fetched professions or reasons why this person is smiling, angry, tired-looking, etc. Story 34. Cooking, explore new recipes and techniques, write music, play multiple instruments, record and produce music, make videos, build avatars, design and build 3D spaces, produce virtual events, train martial arts, build and design websites, build communities. Usually something going on. Story 35. I scroll through Reddit and some other sites like Atlas Obscura. I look at interesting posts and try to come up with creative ideas for paintings, illustrations, and funny t-shirts, approximately 250 currently. Unfortunately, I lack the art talent, but I will look into generative artificial intelligence. I also have about 5 to 10 super creative video game ideas, and luckily I can code. But I don't know what makes good gameplay, even though I spent most of my childhood doing nothing but playing games. Last but not least, I occasionally get super unique premises for stories. It's just a shame I never read, my grammar is poor, and I have zero understanding of human character, a bit on the spectrum. What I actually do is carry with me a budget digital camera and take random photos. I should probably move into photography, but it is an expensive hobby, and I am a cheapskate. So I am super imaginative but don't do anything about it. And thank God I lack any talent for music. Story 36. I do 3D modeling and 3D printing. It's a good outlet for scratching the creative itch, and you get a great sense of achievement when the finished product actually works. Story 37. I think of something I need or want, I think of the way to make it and then design on paper the blueprint of how it should be done, dimensions, and so on. Then I go about building it out of wood, metal, glass, or a combination of all those, and add any electrical or lighting components that are needed. Then my thought has become reality. Easy peasy. Story 38. Creative writing. I like to start with a narrow subject like imagine the perfect bedroom. It makes it easier to beat the blank page. When ideas start coming in, it actually gets harder to not drift too far off point. Story 39. Thinking. Looking for patterns in everything to understand the big picture. I'm not a person you can just say something to. You have to explain and talk to me about it. This means I learn to improve and grow. Then I pass that gift on to others, or at least try to. I've learned I have to limit myself. Compassion fatigue is a real thing. Story 40. I always wanted to do something with music, but I have neither the attention span nor the time or ability to really learn an instrument. So I picked up DJing for fun. I do not produce my own tracks or anything special. I just like to find a bunch of songs I am enjoying at any point in time and mix them together. Story 41. I do a trashy movie review show on YouTube. I've always liked theater, trashy movies, and late-night horror hosts like Elvira, Joe Bob Briggs, Rhonda Shear, and Gilbert Gottfried. So I write, perform, record, and edit my episodes. I'm learning a lot just doing it. The show gets better all the time with slow and steady growth. I'll probably never get famous, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it.